I think that there's going to be all kinds of potential as we move into new energy solutions. And for
Right.
me, I'm glad that we're finally seeing new energy solutions that build on our strength,
Right.
talking about blue hydrogen, talking
Right.
about carbon capture and turning carbon dioxide into useful products like
Yeah.
concrete and
Hmm. Hmm.
graphene and carbon black and carbon nanofiber. And
Right.
all of those could then spin off and create whole new industries. I mean,
Right.
if we're going to
Absolutely.
be hydrogen central out of Alberta, then why aren't we creating hydrogen cars in
Right.
Alberta? We've got California,
Yeah.
Texas, British Columbia as huge close markets. If they want to do electric cars and electric car manufacturing in Ontario, great. But maybe we should be taking the lead on
Right.
creating the hydrogen highway and all of the equipment that's going to be fueled by
Yeah.
hydrogen. Maybe that manufacturing can happen here. And if we start looking at it in that way, that the
Right.
value added off these new industries is something that we should be doing in the West.
Yeah.
I think there's really no limit to how
No, there's
many
not.
new
You're right.
industries could be attracted to
Yeah.
our
And
province.
you know what's really interesting about that from our staffing perspective, the tie-in here is that, as Alberta has said, look, we're going to repurpose our people, but we've got this highly technical group of engineers and, IT and just technological people, and their expertise is in this zone.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're saying, why don't we repurpose them to build websites and be technological IT individuals? And the reality is that the people we have are not those people. They've been educated at a much different level than what we're saying. Well, IT is the new thing, but
And IT is
it's
going to be great
yeah,
for some, but
yeah,
there's a lot of people who are really good with their hands, and we
yeah.
need to make sure that there are hands-on jobs. And I was never more
Yeah.
frustrated with Elizabeth May than when she
Hmm.
sort of put out this vision that the entire world had to switch to solar and wind, and that
Hmm.
our
Hmm.
highly trained men and women who are in this energy sector would have to become solar panel installers.
Right.
And that's not the solution either. And
Yeah.
so when you look at hydrogen, because it
Hmm.
comes from natural gas,
Yep.
it builds on our natural talents. If you
Right.
look at the way in which our business sector has continued to find new innovations
Hmm.
to make products either less polluting or to find a way to find some useful value out of
Right.
that waste stream, that is right in our wheelhouse in trying to
Yeah.
find new purposes for CO2 with the training that we have.
Yeah.
When you look at repurposing some of the old wells to withdraw lithium in the case of
Yes.
E3 metals, or to turn into geothermal, which
Hmm.
is also
Hmm.
another way in which we'd be looking at repurposing our existing technologies using the technologies and the talent that we already have. I
Yeah.
think that there is a way for us to build on the strengths that we've had from our traditional hydrocarbon sector
Right.
and really embrace a whole variety of new
Yeah.
technologies. And in doing so, that'll attract capital because everyone
Yeah.
is looking for a way to invest that will allow us to move to greener and cleaner technologies. And I
Right.
think that our entrepreneurs and our creators are second to none. I think if it's
Yeah.
going to be
Oh,
resolved, if these issues
absolutely.
are going to be solved anywhere, they're going to
Absolutely.
be solved
Yeah.
here.
And I think possibly maybe the way that we need to look at it is that I think when you say, look, we're an oil and gas and we have coal, and then in a few years we're just suddenly going to be all about solar energy. And I think there's steps in this path. It's not as simple as just saying we're going to wholesale get rid of one and then wholesale have the next one. We repurpose what we're doing and the technology and the people, and we just make gradual transitions into the next technology. It doesn't have to be tomorrow.
No, it
And
doesn't.
it's
And I
good, and
think we
it's
have
not
to,
going to be.
and we also have to be realistic
Yeah.
about what the true environmental footprint is of
Oh
all of
yeah.
the different types of energy. I mean, as Cody Battersill from Canada Action used to love to say to me, you can't build a wind turbine from a wind turbine. Because what is a wind turbine? Yes, part of
Yeah.
it is wind, but you
Yeah.
also need fiberglass for the blades,
Right.
and you need to have steel
Mhm.
for the main components, and you need to it's cemented in with
Right.
concrete. And it's not going to be a carbon neutral proposition
Right.
until the fiberglass and the steel and the cement and the
Right.
transportation to get it to the site are all carbon neutral. And
Right.
that's where I think the innovation comes in. We've got
Right.
some amazing innovators in the cement and concrete sector that are looking at ways to capture CO2 and build it into the product to create stronger concrete. We've got innovators in the world of steel construction who are looking at the way that you might be able to use carbon fiber to create an alternative to steel that's that's stronger and that allows us to capture that product permanently. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. Honestly, I think that there's been a lot of hand wringing over the issue of carbon pricing. And the fact that the government is now at the federal level said that it's going up to $170 per ton. And with the Supreme Court decision, even the conservatives at the federal level said that they're going to have carbon pricing. So if this is the reality, that no matter which government you have in, there's going to be a price, then why not find a way to turn that cost into an asset? And so I'm seeing all kinds of creativity that is happening out there. And I think that we've got a lot of reason to be very, very optimistic.
And I really like what you said about, like if we have developers or people that can come here and take advantage of what we have, that's like, having a province that exists solely to exist isn't worth much, but having something that we can sell to the world is what, we currently have it. We're saying it's not going to be there in 20, 30, whatever amount of years, but we need something to replace that. And that's exactly what you're saying is let's replace that with innovation and bring people to us to sell the product that we can create.
I think that we have to also be realistic about, I don't know that we'll ever replace fossil fuels, but I think we will replace the traditional combustion of fossil fuels with carbon capture. I think that the world we're moving to is that if you're going to continue to develop bitumen, you use new technologies to make sure that the carbon dioxide stays infused in the product. And I've spoken recently with somebody who's done that. If you're going to develop hydrogen using methane, then you find a way to capture the CO2 and either bury it in a salt cavern or turn it into a useful product. And if that's going to be the future, that's a zero emission solution, and that is just as good a solution as any other alternative. So I think, especially as well, when you look at, for instance, our bitumen and a company called Canapux or Bitcrude that have found a way to keep it in semi-solid form so that it can be transported that way. So you're already using less greenhouse gas emissions. But part of the reason you want to do that is that so much of bitumen is used for asphalt. And whether you have electric cars or hydrogen cars or combustion engine cars, you're still going to need roads to drive them on. And so that's why I think that the notion that we've been sold that the answer to everything is just converting to wind and solar is just simply not true. It goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. One of these conventional ideas that just sounds so attractive, but when in the real world, it doesn't work because you still need all of the base earth metals and minerals in order to make all of the alternative technologies work as well. So why not find a way to keep on innovating in the use of hydrocarbons so that we can get to a cleaner product faster? That to me, I think is a really compelling idea.
What are your thoughts on nuclear energy? That's
very, very, very bullish on them too. Because to me, especially now that we're talking about small scale modular reactors, that allows for them to be deployed at remote sites for mining, for oil sands. And again, you can reduce the greenhouse gas footprint. There are some new modular reactors that they're using spent fuel on as well. So it actually allows you to take an historic nuclear problem, the waste stream, and turn it into a lesser problem because you're able to use that a second time around. So I think what happened, if you look historically, is that I think that there was a demonization that happened of nuclear. And then a demonization that it just moved. It was nuclear. And then it was, let's target coal. And then it was, well, let's target forestry. And then it was, let's target natural gas. And to me, all of them have a place. Every single type of energy use has the ability to find its niche and to find a way to be valuable and to find a way to be less damaging to the environment. And that's the real challenge. Because you can look at, I mean, I could, if I wanted to, I could probably make a case against each of them, but I don't think that that's the point, is that we recognize that just the basis of civilization is energy production and food production. And if we're going to continue to feed a planet that's growing to 10 billion people and improve their quality of life, you have to find a way to make sure everybody has enough food and enough reliable energy. And the way you do that is to make sure that you can keep on producing them in a clean and efficient fashion. That's what I think the challenge is.
Absolutely. I think Canada has an opportunity to be a nuclear expert worldwide. We have we've been doing it. It feels like it's been in secret or something, but we do have expertise with nuclear power plants. I remember I can't remember if it was certainly within the last 20 years, let's say Alan Greenspan was in Calgary, and it was a Q&A, and someone asked him and said, what's that one thing? What's the one thing that Canada, or specifically Alberta, needs to do? And he said, you guys need a nuclear power generator in Northern Alberta. And everyone was like, what? And it was like this. And it wasn't, he didn't think about it. He said, that was it. You have to have that. It was fascinating.
Well, it is interesting because there was a proposal, but again, it was one of these really large scale, I think it was a 2,000 megawatt plant being proposed by Bruce Power. And that's a harder step for people than the idea of having small modular units that you can fit together and grow organically if you wanted to get a larger amount of power. And it's also from a regulatory approval process, it'd be so much easier to approve a design that then can be rolled out on a mass scale. And so I think that the nuclear industry has found perhaps a solution that will allow for greater adoption and less concern. I think people are always concerned that if there's a freak accident like we saw with Fukushima, that you're going to end up with the potential of a major calamity. And if the smaller they are, the more mobile they are, the chances of those kinds of mishaps become less. And so it then broadens out what you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be amazing if we could see that. So yeah. So what's our message that we need to leave some of these young up and comers that are gonna be hitting the thought world? They're gonna want your chair at 770. What do we got to tell these guys? How are we gonna?
One of the things is that I think that young people think that they have to make a choice between their caring about the environment, because they do care about the environment. I think they believe that they have to make a choice between that and having a good paying job. And I don't see it that way at all. Every business owner that I've spoken with, and I've spoken to so many in the last 6 weeks or so, is laser focused on how they can create a better product with less impact on the environment, because they know that that's what their workers want. They know that that's what their customers want. And they know that that's what investors want. And so if all of those things are aligning, then I think that young people coming up should know that there's going to be all kinds of opportunities that allow for them to work in really rewarding professions without feeling like they have to compromise on those things. I think that if you're a person of goodwill and you sort of look out in the world and you see that there are other persons of goodwill out there as well, then the world is a less frightening and a less hostile place. And so I'm feeling very positive and optimistic and upbeat these days. I'm trying to beat down negativity with positivity. I don't know if I can do it alone. I hope more people approach the world with a similar type of attitude. And then maybe we might find more areas of agreement than disagreement.